Good afternoon, this is Brian. Today's Saturday, March 26, 2022. I'm in Cleveland National Forest in the Santa Ana Mountains, right next to Blue Jay Campground. Yes, there I am there again. Today, I want to present a spotlight on trees. And I was kind of hesitant to do this because some of the most interesting features of this tree are present, but hard to get to, because certain ones are just not doing it. So I'll explain that in a minute. Well, today's spotlight is on Foothill Ash. In other words, or in other names, California Ash, Two-Petal Ash, and that is Fraxinus dipetala, which is this right here, just leafing out for spring. So Fraxinus dipetala, like the name Fraxinus denotes, it's an ash. So it's a member of the olive family, like the other genus members of Fraxinus, and the olive family is Oleaceae. So Foothill Ash is generally a lanky, sparse, tall shrub to small tree, and it's generally winter-deciduous. Leaves fall off in autumn, or a lot of times they'll start falling off by late summer, because so you can consider them partially, winter and drought deciduous at the same time. The leaves usually start falling off by late summer. Usually by August, these plants are getting pretty sparse. The drier the year, the earlier they fall off, and then they leaf out towards March. Sometimes February in warmer years, but so they're leafless most of the winter. So Fraxinus dipetala, again, quite a tall shrub to a small tree, very open in stature, very lanky, sometimes tall and floppy, and not really full crowned and dense like other members of the genus Fraxinus often are. So Fraxinus dipetala is one of at least 3, possibly 4 species of ashes that live in Southern California. The two most conspicuous meaning larger sized, would be Fraxinus velutina and Fraxinus latifolia, Arizona and Oregon ash respectively, and they form small to medium trees, whereas Foothill Ash, Fraxinus dipetala, is usually shrubby, sometimes with a single, or sometimes it's like 2 or 3 main trunks, sometimes single stemmed, especially when younger, and in a very thin crown, as you can see here. There's one other species of Fraxinus that might be kind of similar to Fraxinus dipetala. I've never seen it. I don't know exactly where to find it, but I heard I heard Baja California and maybe southern San Diego County, and that's Fraxinus perryi, called Chaparral Ash. Don't know much about that one, so not going to really get into details, but I think it might be somewhat similar, at least in size and stature. Okay, so Foothill Ash is just like a lot of the other members of the genus Fraxinus. Not all of them, but most of them have single pinnately compound leaves. What I mean by is once pinnately compound. So you have you got the main leaf stalk. Let's see if I can find it here. Let me see if I can get it where the lighting is just right so I can show this off. So you can see here on this 3 leaflet one, it's 3 leaflets, not 3 leaves. It's got a main stem, and it's got 1 set of leaflets, so it doesn't have another a second set. So you can see here, generally 3 to 5 leaflets, sometimes 7 maybe, and they're usually fairly small, a lot smaller than on your larger ash trees, and they darken off to a medium green by summertime. But so you can see here, these are the fresh new leaves for the new year, and then again Usually about 5 leaflets, sometimes 3, maybe a little bit more on occasion, but usually no more than 5 leaflets. Unlike some of our larger ash trees, especially the ones back east, that might have like 7 or 9 leaflets, and the leaves are much larger because the climate's a lot wetter. But Foothill Ash is very much a member of the Chaparral community. Where we are right now is a stand of very mature chaparral that hasn't burnt in a very long time. So common associates would be scrub oaks, Quercus berberifolia, and Quercus acutidens. Probably, well, yeah, maybe some other types of scrub oaks. Interior live oak, coast live oak, toyon, chamise, manzanitas, sumacs, silk tassels, ceanothus. It's not an extremely abundant plant, but it can be locally common. Here, there's a small population of them along this fire break just above the Blue Jay campground / Upper San Juan trailhead. But so let's go into the bark. The bark, most like the upper growth, kind of grayish, medium to dark gray, sometimes encrusted with lichen on them, as you can see here. And the twigs, as are the leaves, are oppositely arranged, so they're opposite one each other on the stem, oppositely arranged, like is a general characteristic for Oleaceae, the olive family. And the twigs themselves are 4-angled, so they're almost like square in cross-section. And it's partially because of these corky wing growths that grow on the edge of the twigs. So it makes them appear square in cross-section. You kind of look here, it kind of looks like a square or rectangle in cross-section. So they're basically 4-angled in cross-section. Newer twigs have, again, these little corky wing outgrowth on them, which is not found in our other ashes. And our other ashes, like dipetala and, well, our other ashes, well, Fraxinus dipetala is the one I'm talking about. That's the one with the 4-angled twigs that I'm talking about right now. But Fraxinus velutina and Fraxinus latifolia have twigs that are round in cross-section and don't really have those corky outgrowths. So that's a way you could tell younger ashes from one another. And the fact that Fraxinus dipetala, our specimen today, sheds its leaves much earlier, late summer to early fall at the latest. Sometimes some trees and shrubs in wetter locations and canyons can often retain them well into fall, and then they shed off by late fall and early winter. But in the chaparral, the leaves, the plants usually drop their leaves earlier and sometimes leaf out a little bit earlier with beneficial rains during the winter. So we're going to talk about the lower bark of the Foothill Ash. The lower bark is a little more similar to your typical ashes. It's kind of furrowed, rough and furrowed. Let me move this toyon branch out of the way so I can get close to it. Here's the bark of your Foothill Ash right here. Some light furrowing, and sometimes kind of square-like a little bit as you go down. Kind of like square-like plates and furrows. So I mentioned that one of the names is Two-Petal Ash. Dipetala means two-petaled in Greek. So why do we call it Two-Petal Ash? Most people don't know ashes to have brilliantly colored flowers. Most ashes are pretty simple, have very simple flowers. But not Fraxinus dipetala. And this is where I'm kind of at a slight disadvantage, because there are some blooming specimens in this area. March and April is when this plant is blooming. So you see this is a small lanky one, a couple small ones there that have blooms on them. Now, contrary to most ashes, not all of them, most ashes have just dull greenish, brownish flowers that are not very conspicuous. Not really what people would call noteworthy or showy. Fraxinus dipetala is a much different story. Their flowers have 2 petals on them, hence the name dipetala, or Two-Petal Ash, one of the other common names. Hoping I can get close enough to a specimen in bloom to show you the flowers up close. So I'm having bad luck with that today. I've had very bad luck with that today. So most of the ones in bloom are in the middle of the chaparral. Here's one that has a couple blooms on it. Unfortunately, this is very annoying. So I really want to show you. I've been wanting to do a spotlight on this for a long time. The flowers are really beautiful. Not what you expect with an ash. Let's see. I wonder if I'm going to have to crawl through some scrub oak to get to it. There's plenty of foothill ash around here, but most of it's behind the manzanitas. So the flowers are in these really large hanging clusters. They're white and 2-petaled. So you got two white petals opposite each other, and then you got the stamens. But yeah, this is driving me nuts because I want to get to a flowering specimen of this really badly. But yeah, the flowers are these hanging white clusters, beautiful. Not sure about fragrance, I'm not really sure about that. But fortunately, the really large one that I was right near is not trying to bloom right now. But flowering ash is another name for it. There's another species of ash in Europe called Fraxinus ornis. I think it's in Europe. That has those showier flowers. I'm going to try to see if I can find a way to get to a blooming specimen without scraping myself up over here. Let's see. Maybe if I could duck under the scrub oak a little bit here, maybe I'll get lucky. Just maybe. Alright. Let's see here. No, not this one either. This one's not even blooming. Kind of disappointed. I was hoping to get you some close-ups of this plant in bloom. So maybe for me to do a spotlight, if I'm doing it when it's blooming, should get to the flowers. Yeah. It's kind of a failed mission right here. That little bushwhacker would get me close to some flowers. But no, that one doesn't even have any flowers on it. So, again, Fraxinus dipetala. This one over here, one off over here, has some white in it, so it's got some flowers on it. Getting to it is quite a task. This one has some flower buds on it. I don't know if I can get to it. Maybe I can. Just have to bushwhack around the chemise a little bit over here. Let me see. Hopefully I can weigh it down towards me a little bit so I can give you a look at it. Alright, let's see. Alright, let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. Okay, here we go. Bear with me for a minute. Here we go. These are the flowers of your two-petal ash, Fraxinus dipetala. And there is a fragrance to them, actually a quite pleasant fragrance. Not very strong, but if you look carefully, it's kind of hard on camera, you got the stamens opposite each other, and then you get the two petals opposite each other. So this is what the flower of your Fraxinus dipetala looks like. Beautiful. So what I've been wanting to show people for a couple of years now. And then got some more flower clusters developing here. And eventually they will get these small winged seeds that are just like all the other species of ash. Winged. But there you go. That's Fraxinus dipetala. The beautiful foothill ash in bloom. It's the first time I've actually been this close to the flowers. I've seen them in bloom before from a little bit of a distance, but yep, believe it or not, very gently. Sorry, Mr. Ash Tree. So then in a couple months they'll have these little winged seeds on them that are wind dispersed. So my effort finally paid off. I found a foothill ash that I could get to and get the flower footage. So that's going to wrap it up. Check the, well, before I wrap it up, Foothill Ash is also a member, not only the Chaparral, but also the woodlands. You're mostly going to find it below 4,000 and 5,000 feet. I haven't seen it any higher than that, at least not yet. And again, it loves chaparral. It also can be found on north-facing slopes in woodlands and even in forests, where it's even lankier. But as you can tell, that small ash, very tall, kind of tall, lanky structure. 4 angled twigs with a little bit of a crusty wing on the edge of them, and small 3 to 5 leaflets. Beautiful white flowers and little seed keys. That's going to do it for my spotlight on trees with Brian. Foothill Ash, Fraxinus dipetala. Finally got the detail of the flowers for you. Sorry it took so long, but I had to do it. Foothill Ash, that little tree right there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another episode of Spotlight on Trees.